Hi, welcome to Spirit Wind Ministries. I'm glad you could join us today. My name is Debbie Stewart, and I will be your host today. My special guest today is actually Commissioner Jason Knight, who is your commissioner in Clarksville, Montgomery County Commissioner, and I want to welcome you to Spirit Wind Ministry. And I'm going to turn it over to you because if I don't, I will take up the whole 28 minutes. I promise. But I want you to introduce yourself, please, and tell them, a little bit about yourself, your background. I know you have military history and the whole thing, and what your beliefs are and why. Why did you get involved in politics?
Well, first off, I'll start by saying that God has a plan. God has a plan for everyone. Um, I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. I migrated here to Clarksville when I joined the military in 2004. I was actually living in New York when the towers fell, believe it or not. And I was actually present at the Ground Zero site when the towers fell. That's what initiated my drive to join the military in the first place. So I joined the military in 2004 and ended up at Fort Campbell. I served 9 years at Fort Campbell, 15 years total service.
Wow.
I served the rest of my time in the reserves. I've taken on 2 company commands in the reserves. So I've led countless troops in many locations. I'm married with 7 children. Everybody gets a laugh out of that one. But
you got troops right at home.
Absolutely. Baseball team, true.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, 5 of them being girls and 2 being boys. I think it's more of a cheerleading team.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, I have an associate's degree in industrial electronics and computer networking. I completed my bachelor's of science here at Austin Peay State University, where incidentally I also received my commission as a captain, well, as an officer in the United States Army. I loved Austin Peay, good school.
Yes, my grandson goes there.
Yeah. But I ended up right back at Fort Campbell because originally when I enlisted, I was stationed here at Campbell with the 129th CSSB. That's the Corps Support Battalion. And then when I commissioned, I ended up with the 2nd Brigade Combat Team. I remember my days as a battalion signal officer with 1st of the 320th Field Artillery Regiment. Those were fun times. Many ruck marches, many battalion runs, company runs, fun times. But I got into politics when I decided to run for the county commission because I didn't know who my commissioner was at the time. And, I as a regular person with a regular life and a regular job, I said to myself, it's time I, like you, get involved, with politics. And too many of God's children are not involved with politics today, and we need to know and understand what's going on so that we can, ensure that, we live our life in a godly manner, as well as having those that represent us, have those same ideals.
Exactly.
But in any case, I went ahead and put my name in the hat for county commission, and the unexpected happened, and I won.
Praise God. Well,
and like I said, God had a plan at that moment, for me, and I believe that wholeheartedly. I know you stated that you spoke to Brad for about an hour. Well,
at least an hour and a half.
Yeah, the way things transpired, he called me on the phone, and the first things I told him, out of my mouth was, God has a plan. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And the same thing has happened to me with this run for state senate. I prayed, and I put my name in the hat at the last minute because God spoke to me and said, "You need to do this.
Yeah.
You need to do this." And so I went ahead and I did it.
Isn't it a little scary when that happens?
It is very
Yeah.
scary because
Yeah.
yeah, because on my end I have to deal with the whole issue of putting together a team, financing, and media, and the whole nine. So it was very scary, But once God calls you, you have to say, "Here I am."
You just have to have faith and just step
Absolutely.
out and do what God's asked you to do. And it's so talking points because
Sure.
I was doing my homework last night and going through your bio and just jotting down things. So
Absolutely.
you do have conservative Republican ideals.
Yes, ma'am.
The main thing which I thought I would never ever see in my lifetime is late term abortions or even aborting after the baby's born. That is unacceptable.
Absolutely. I feel like the things that's going on in New York right now
Yeah.
with the late term abortions is, in my opinion, and over TV, but it's sickening to say the
Yes.
least. Um, with 7 kids, I couldn't imagine, and I've seen each one of them, born or watch them crawl.
Right.
I couldn't, in my right mind, think of anyone that would want to abort a child, and if that child that they attempted to abort is injured but not killed and is delivered, that the doctors will do nothing to ensure that that child's life is saved. That just, in my opinion, it's just horrible and goes against all the principles in medicine, Hippocratic oath,
Yes,
and
right.
what have you, that they have to follow. I feel that it goes against that. It goes against all godly, laws of life.
Right.
God said in the Bible, it says, "Go forth, be fruitful, and multiply,
Right.
and replenish the earth."
You are a strong constitutionalist.
Yes, ma'am. I believe in wholeheartedly in our Constitution. As a matter of fact, I had the opportunity to question some individuals in regards to something on the commission, and one of my questions that I provided was, what are the first words on the U.S. Constitution? And that was one of my determining factors on how I was going to vote. And some of the individuals, to my surprise, had no idea what the first words are on the United States Constitution or the Tennessee state constitution. We the people.
Right. Amen. That's right.
We the people. And for too long, many of politicians, many individuals, many of even, regular people out there have forgotten what that means.
Yeah.
We the people. It's all about the people.
Well, that's right, don't you? I want my America back. I want the America I grew up. When I remember, I raised my kids. You will respect God. You will respect the flag. And you will respect this country because
You make me want to get up and salute right
there you
now.
go. I cry at the national anthem. I do. When I think of all the thousands of other men and women that are sacrificing every day, how dare you step on my flag? How dare you do that? I'm sorry, but we live in the best country in the whole world. Is it perfect? No, but it's America. And you know what? We have the freedoms here that, half these people would be dead if they were in another country doing what they're doing in our country.
At my household, my children, before they eat, they pray.
Yes, we do too. Mm-hmm.
That is the one cornerstone of our household.
Yeah.
All my children respect the flag. I remember a proud moment. I came home and my son said, Dad, guess what I learned in school today? I said, what? I learned all the words to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh.
And I said, hooah.
Isn't that awesome? But
It is awesome.
you have to raise your kids that way, because I think today people don't. They're not grateful for what they have.
Right.
They're not grateful, so they want more, or they're not happy with what they have. Second Amendment.
Sure. So, Second Amendment, anyone can say that they're pro Second Amendment. But how many individuals can say that they have deployed 3 times in defense in a combat zone
Right.
of our country and our Constitution?
That's right.
I have. I've deployed to Iraq twice and Afghanistan once. I remember having to discharge my 50 cal in combat on one occasion in Iraq. I believe this was my first deployment. We were driving towards the green zone, and there was I was the gunner, and all I felt was a shining light, and I saw in the distance this one truck coming up really fast on us, and I ducked down. I told Sergeant Penner, that was his name at the time. I say, Sergeant Penner, there's a truck coming up on us really quick. What should I do? So our TTP was to, or tactics, techniques, and procedures, was to first shoot off a flare. If that didn't work, then we were supposed to shine and point at the weapon, with our flashlight to let, at the time, all the political things that were going on, with discharging your weapon out there, you had to be cautious and careful and ensure that you engage the correct enemy and not someone else.
Right.
So anyway, he was still coming. I shined my weapon, pointed 80 million times, and still this guy's coming. So eventually I had to shoot off one into the dead space, what we call dead space. It's away from the vehicle. Then I shot one towards the vehicle itself. The vehicle went off to the side, and that's the last I heard of what occurred. It's kind of hard to talk about.
Right.
So
I can imagine. That's why I think you guys are due big time respect.
Mhm.
I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, immigration.
Well, for me, it's more of a federal issue than a state issue. The only real issue where the state would get involved is where each state is or has the authority to become a sanctuary city. I'm against sanctuary cities completely. I want to ensure the safety and sanctity of our cities that we live in, considering that I was there when the towers fell, when there was a terrorist attack. I want to ensure that that does not occur anywhere else. As a matter of fact, I lived in California for a little bit when I was a company commander. I commanded a unit out in Sacramento, and I worked a little bit at Fort Irwin as well. And believe it or not, I traveled back and forth, and I lived. I think I lived in the area of San Bernardino, and I remember watching on television. Well, not TV, but social media, really. But I was watching an editorial in regards to the San Bernardino shooting when it was happening live. So things like that, we want to ensure that we keep away from our cities, and the best way to do that is to ensure that we keep our cities secure and safe. And the best way to do that is to ensure that there's anti-sanctuary city laws in place to ensure that each one of our cities can ensure that they're not bringing in individuals who may want to do us harm.
So how do you feel about the borders, though? Do you think that we should have
I
the
do.
closed borders?
Yes, I believe in having strong border security. Again, being a serviceman in the reserves and having deployed so many times, I've seen the enemy. I know what the enemy looks like, and I want to ensure that we keep the enemy out, keep the good in. Those that want to come in go through a proper process,
Exactly.
ensure that that process is complete, become a citizen or have your green card, you
Right.
work legally, you do things legally, you conduct yourself in a legal manner. But anything other than that, where we're taking out tax dollars to pay for others who are here illegally, that just, it's like if you're just taking money straight out of my pocket, or taking resources from someone who is doing the right thing to give
Right.
to someone who's doing the wrong thing. It just doesn't make any sense.
Now, your views on helping the veterans and military, and how are your feelings about that? I know that President Trump has made some changes with the VA where now someone can get fired if they're not if they're not a good employee, where before they were not allowed to.
Right.
And then also that if a veteran has to wait too long
Mm-hmm.
to get seen by a doctor, that they're allowed to go now to a private doctor, and the government will pay for it, so they're
Right.
not waiting months. And
Right. And, you know, from that federal aspect, we have to take that and extrapolate, some information there. And there's a thing called the choice program.
right,
And in the choice program, it says that if a veteran is more than 40 miles away from a VA center, that they have the ability, with the approval of the VA, to go somewhere that's closer to them, right? And I find it uh, many a times where veterans have stated that for whatever reason, the VA have chosen to pretend like that program doesn't exist. So we want to ensure that it's being pushed. The idea is being pushed. The concept is being pushed. The policy is pushed, to those veterans
right,
to give them
yeah,
that option. Because I've done many interviews with some individuals out in Stewart and Houston County, and even some here in Montgomery County, where they say, well, um, doctors, even my colleague over here, where they have to go all the way to Nashville um, in order to get seen at a VA facility. Now, imagine you're living in Stewart and Houston County, far away from Nashville,
right,
and the VA is telling you, well, we can't comply with the choice program because of whatever reason. Doesn't make any sense. We should give them that opportunity. Give
right.
them that chance to get seen
Exactly.
somewhere close to home.
I'm really glad that you are thinking of the veterans, and well, of course, why wouldn't you,
And
right?
like I always say,
Exactly.
anyone can say that they're pro-veteran,
Right,
but I am a veteran, so I
right.
understand.
Yeah. In your bio, it says something about working towards stronger state and local partnership for infrastructure development.
Right. So that being said, you have um, take Montgomery County. Most of our roads are state roads, right? So these state roads, it's kind of hard for the local um, representatives to do anything with those state roads, right? Unless we have a good marriage
Right.
between the state and local representatives to get those roads fixed, to get that infrastructure fixed, to get the new roads or the sidewalks that we want. If we don't have that marriage, then we'll constantly have a process that takes about 15 to 20 years to complete. Right? If nobody's talking to each other, communicating, we're going to have those issues. So it's all about being able to say, well, okay, I'm a state. Let's say I do get elected. Let me talk to the county commissioners of Montgomery County. Let me talk to the city council members of Clarksville and see, what we can do to streamline the infrastructure development process. See what we can do to ensure we widen certain roads or ensure simple thing like having snowplows go through on Tiny Town when there's too much snow. I remember the other year, we were complaining about that because I think we had like a week-long snow day, and every day was an accident. And I think the accident ratio was up like I think a good 50% for that particular week. So, it's things like that we need to look at.
Right.
And having that good marriage between state and local representatives will help to streamline that process and fix that problem.
Now, increased state allocations to District 22 for schools, for either building more schools or more resource officers, teachers,
Yes.
etc.
Yes. So, one of our main issues is school security. I know we've seen recently in the news of all the school shootings and the whole nine. But what most people fail to realize is that 90% of school shootings is conducted by the students that go to the school.
Right.
It's not some odd weirdo coming up to the school to try to do something. It
Right.
is those students who are bullied or may have some mental issues or being abused by parents or what have you, that try to take out that anger, take out that frustration on other students. Now, with the increase of SROs, that will help to ensure that we have a good officer presence to be a visual deterrent to those students who want to come into the school to do harm to other students. As far as ensuring that they have adequate funding, we got to, I mean, most schools locally take up about 85 to 90% of any budget. And I just want to ensure that those resources are being used appropriately. Just recently, we voted down the Kirkwood complex here in Montgomery County, only because of two reasons. One, because it was next to a landfill, and I don't care whether it's an industrial landfill or a landfill for shoes. Just the idea of putting your kids next to a landfill, right? That alone is not a good thing. Two, you have 2,700 students that needs to be housed in a school. You build a school that houses 1,500 students.
Yeah.
What are you doing with the other 1,200? So we want to ensure that the proper funding is allocated to building of schools appropriately, building that infrastructure appropriately, versus haphazardly thinking, haphazardly putting something together, and then having to adjust for that change in a reactive manner versus a proactive manner. I believe that we should pay out the $60 million it'll cost, for a school that can house 28, maybe 3,000 students, right? And be cognizant of that change that may occur within the next 5, 10, 15, or 20 years versus building a school that'll house 1,500 students, and then within the next 3 years, guess what? You're spending another 40,000 to add an attachment to the school, or you're spending another, 40 million, or another 20 million to add a compartmentalized little trailer on the side that may not be as secure. That's outside, right? I know for a fact because my child had to be in one of those trailers, right? So it's all about ensuring that proper funding is allocated properly to that infrastructure, and that the infrastructure that is built is well thought out as it relates to growth and change within the community.
Yeah, it's my grandson had to be in one of those cubicles too, and we moved here from California where we get earthquakes, but it's just it happens so often that you shake and you go, it's just an earthquake. But my first storm here, it was like we get an eighth of an inch of rain coming in California, and they put storm watch on the screen. And then you can move here, and your first storm, they're going, Dallas Raines was one of the newscasters. I'm going, he has no idea what a storm is. But I would get worried about them being in those little cubicles because they're not as safe, They're not like attached to the building or anything, so. But, all right, this last question is not from your bio. It's just from me.
Sure.
If you don't mind. How important is God to your life, your family, your being a commissioner? Where does God stand?
I'm glad
in
you
your
asked.
life?
So we've had 5 forums so far, political forums that I had to go to, and with each one, I say a prayer and I say, God, guide my words, my thoughts, and my deeds.
Yes.
And I'll be absolutely transparent and honest with you right here, right now. Remember when I asked where the restroom was?
Yes.
I had to go pray.
Praise God. Well, that's what I do too. Not always in the restroom, but.
I know
but
it was the only spot that I had at the time that was private.
Praise God. Yeah.
And yes, can I share a scripture with you?
Absolutely.
This is one of my favorite scriptures. It's in the book of Ecclesiastes, last chapter, second to last verse. Hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for that is the whole duty of man. Here's the kicker to that. Biblical studies, believe it or not, is my hobby. And I've read that verse in Hebrew. And it translates as this. Hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for that is the whole man.
Yeah.
It makes you complete.
You know, God sent his son Jesus to die on the cross. That's the only reason he was born, was to die for us. And because he did, we, accepting him as our Savior, and just turn your life over to him. Say, God, I've tried drugs, I've tried alcohol, I've tried you name it. And, you know, if it's not working for you, what have you got to lose? Give God a chance. Invite him into your heart. Will your life be perfect? No. Nobody's life is perfect on this planet. But will God see you through it? Absolutely. Why? Because you're his child. And, you know, if you have any questions about what we're speaking about here as far as God goes, you're welcome to contact me at spiritwindministry@gmail.com or on Facebook, Spirit Wind Ministry with Debbie Stewart. I'll be happy to get you a Bible if you don't have one. We'll be happy to pray with you and point you in the direction of a Bible teaching church. And if there's any way, how can they look more into your campaign and get a hold of your, you know, I don't know, Brad, what you want.
Well, if you do social media, you can follow me at Jason D. There's a period at the end of the D, Knight, and that's where you can follow me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. It's the @ JasonK360. I'm on Instagram as well at JasonKnight_TN. And I have a website. It's JasonKnight.org. Feel free to follow any one of those medias, or just give me a call, or send me an email. All my information is on my Facebook page. So just go out there, check it out, tell your friends. Also, I have a little 22 for 22 campaign. Here's your opportunity to elect your next District 22 state senator by telling 22 of your friends, going out there and saying, hey, get out there and vote. 350 Pageant Lane, early voting's already started. Head down there and tell them, do what's right, vote Knight. Thank you.
Hey, that's a good slogan. Do what's right, vote Knight. Yeah.
Lastly, if you guys would like to donate to the campaign, there's also a link on the Facebook page to do so. Thank you.
Again, Jason, awesome. I'm so glad God put this together, and we'll be praying for you. And again, I want to thank you for tuning in to Spirit Wind Ministry. And this show's going to air for the next 2 weeks. So, you know, if you think you've missed something here, you can tune in every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. or every Wednesday morning at 5:30 a.m. On WCKV TV. It's channel 6 if you have Charter, and it's channel 12 if you have CDE. So again, God bless you, and have a great week.
Trust